Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier. This is our podcast featuring all the things that are good to know, the positive things going on around the Arklatex. My name is Jeff Blindfloor. I'm your host today, co-host I should say, and this is my co-host, Paul Reeser, over here to my right. And he is on the board of directors of the Committee of 100?
Committee of 100, yeah.
Committee of 100, owned about 2,000 Sonics around the country and sold them all and got rich.
Give or take a couple thousand.
And now living a life of leisure and hosting a podcast. So how the mighty have fallen. Anyway, we always leave this to him to introduce our special guest today.
Well, thanks, Jeff. What a wonderful introduction.
I'm here to help.
So, you know, Shreveport, very fortunate because we have our own symphony, very successful symphony orchestra. And whenever I see a successful organization, I always look to the leadership. So we're very fortunate. We have the director here today of the Shreveport Symphony Orchestra. He's also the director of 3 other orchestras.
Wow.
Also very sought after guest director. And you know, he's very smart, very funny. We're going to learn a lot today, Jeff.
I hope so.
From the maestro, Michael Butterman.
Michael, welcome.
Thank you so much.
He's like, how did I get into this?
I don't know.
You've
set the bar really high here with that introduction. So
okay, before we even get anywhere, how do you have time to direct 3 orchestras or 4 orchestras?
Yeah. Well, I wonder that myself sometimes. But you know, it means I spend a lot of time on the road. But this is home. This is where we've lived since 2006. My wife and daughter and I. My daughter's now a student at Tech, just starting this school year.
Okay.
But this is our base, and I also conduct out in Colorado the Boulder Philharmonic, and in Pennsylvania the Lancaster Symphony, and in Virginia the Williamsburg Symphony. So
wow.
This is sort of centrally located in that sense. So yeah, it's a lot of time on the road, but always very, very happy to come back home to Shreveport and work with the orchestra here and the community, great community of which it's a part.
Well, it's not like these orchestras are close together, from what you're telling me here.
That's true. So. They're all, but they're all really unique and in their own. But there's a lot of things, of course, they share in common.
He was about to say unique in their own way.
I was, I stopped myself because
that was redundant.
I try to avoid that when I can. But there are of course similarities between all of them, but the communities themselves are, as you probably can imagine from the list I just gave you, all very different, and they have their own sort of personalities, and the way you program, the kinds of music that you choose for one community might be a little different from what you put together in another community. So anyway, they all challenge me in different ways, and I appreciate that.
So you're known as a maestro.
Well,
so how does one attain this title?
I guess by getting the job as a conductor somewhere.
Okay.
That's an Italian word that it goes way back, and I kind of bristle at it a little bit.
Do you? And is this an official title from the Seinfeld? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Exactly right.
Well, Ed Walsh, helps us out. He used to be here. He writes a lot of my questions for this. Actually, he doesn't trust me, but when he hears me call the maestro this guy, he's going to just come out of his seat. So I got a lot to answer for. But no, it is definitely. A sign of respect. The maestro, you lead the orchestra. It's a very challenging job, and to be successful as you are, I would imagine that there's a lot of challenges these days in the symphony.
Oh, a tremendous number, yeah. I mean, just starting with the fact that the music that we play is, not familiar to a huge part of our population, not just here in Shreveport, but anywhere. And the business model of a symphony orchestra is also, simply put, terrible. Speaking to a businessman here, you can appreciate that there are no economies of scale. There's no ways to make things more efficient. We can't reduce the number of string players we have and just mic them because it changes the total quality of what we have. So it's just there are certain costs built into running a professional orchestra that are what they are, and so we're really dependent on a combination of earned income from tickets and so on, but also contributed income, foundations, individuals, grants, you name it.
Well, you do a lot in the community. I know you're doing a lot in education to get the children educated and so forth. After we talked the other day, I'm like, I used to love music, what kind of music do you play? Classical music. So I know you do all kinds of music, but I used to love classical music. So I'm going to pull out the old classical music, and I put Vivaldi, The Four Seasons,
Yeah.
and the first Winter came up. I'm like, God, I love this. This is so good. And then after a couple minutes, I'm like, this is long. It's a 9.5-minute long song.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking, is the challenge that, your TikTok videos are about 14 seconds? Is there a shortened attention span that might be a challenge?
Oh, there's no question that, classical music, first of all, mostly doesn't have words. I mean, there are obviously operas and so on that do, but for the most part, it's abstract sound. And you are asking people to, 9.5 minutes or whatever that was, that would qualify as not that long a piece. Some Beethoven symphonies are approaching 50 minutes long.
Wow.
And, Mahler symphonies can be longer than that. So you're asking people to focus their attention on something abstract for quite a long time, and that is a challenge. Not just because of. Well, it's not just a challenge for people that are. It's a challenge for me too. I'll just say that we are all being rewired through our
that's for sure.
connectivity through our devices and so on. We're looking for the next ding, the next little stimulation.
Yeah.
The idea of being multitasking and scattered is something that's just kind of creeping into our very way of being. But I would say, so that's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And what I mean by that is that, more than ever, I think people are looking for chances to kind of to unplug, to transcend
I agree with that.
that kind of frantic pace. And they might find it through prayer, they might find it through meditation. I suggest you can also find it through really losing yourself in great music like we play.
No question. I don't pretend to know anything about classical music, but I've been to a couple of symphonies, and I just close my eyes and kind of lean back and just let it wash over me. And I find it very relaxing, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad to know that, because I think that's a very valid way to interact with it. And I think I really do think it provides an opportunity. I think you have to, if you go into a concert and expect the music to kind of like grab you by the lapels and shake you and say, now pay attention to me, you may be setting yourself up for sort of the wrong expectation. But if you go in there and are willing to kind of give it some time and allow yourself to kind of get into those, how should we say, beta brainwave patterns where you're just a little more deeply relaxed and so on, I really think that the opportunity or the experience it provides is something that is more than ever, I think it's something we crave.
Well, without words, I think we need a little bit of a guide. And I watched some of your videos, and I noticed that you do a great job of saying this is why and where and what was going on. And you're kind of like a guide to help people understand. It's very valuable. I know when I went to Paris not long ago after I sold my business.
Listen to this guy.
But we went to the Louvre, and I'm like, nice paintings. Yeah, I would have really been bored in there had we not had a guide that took us and explained this is what was happening, this was the time of year, and it was fascinating. And I see you kind of do the same thing with the orchestra.
I do try to do that. So I think you can expect at any of our concerts that I will well, first of all, there's usually a pre-concert talk, which I will give ahead of time, an hour ahead of time, so on, for people that are able to come to that. But since most people are not going to get there that early, I will take some time and speak to the audience for a few minutes, or just even a couple minutes before a piece we're about to play, just to kind of orient their listening, to kind of give some perspective. What was the composer doing or thinking about as he or she was writing this? What are the different things you might notice as we play this piece, and what might they signify, if I can make those suggestions? Because like you said, I have that same experience when I am around let's say an art form that is not my area of expertise, right? I want that, just a little bit of orientation, a little bit of guidance, and once I get that, then when I do experience whether it's the ballet or the painting or something, I feel like, exactly like you say, oh, I see what they were talking about. There it is. And it just means more to me. I connect with it more deeply.
I always felt like if a city had a symphony orchestra and a ballet, that was kind of a sign of, I don't know, sophistication for that particular market. Would you agree with that, or am I just way off base?
No, I being in the business I am, I guess I would tend to agree with you. Certainly.
Yeah. And how? And you mentioned the business model earlier. So how hard is it to maintain a symphony in an area like this?
Well, it's a big challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because every fiscal year, you're on the knife's edge. There's no fat in the budget of a symphony orchestra or a ballet company or an opera company for sure. It is a challenge because simply put, the expenses of putting something on are not met by the receipts, or the ticket prices would have to be so high that it'd be unaffordable for people to even come. So it would defeat the purpose. So it's no question a challenge. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of people believing that there is a value to having an orchestra here. I'm talking about people who have foundations, people who are associated with various, let's say, corporations. Sometimes want to invest in the quality of life of their community. I'll take Willis Knighton as an example. They are a season sponsor for us, and they, I think, believe that having a vibrant symphony here makes Shreveport-Bossier a better place to live.
No, I would agree with that.
Well, I would as well. And anyway, it takes that kind of support and realization of the value of what we offer on a number of people's parts to make it work.
Well, how would you define the value for people that are like, well, I haven't been to the symphony in a while. What value do you bring to a community?
Yeah, I mean, how do you get people interested in coming? And then beyond that, the question Paul had.
Well, boy, I mean, so there's a lot of aspects to that, to that answer, I suppose. One is to say that I think we need to continue to be more things to more people, and to that end, we don't just play music by Beethoven and Vivaldi. We have next season coming up music of Elvis. We've got a John Williams tribute. So anybody who's ever seen, we've got.
See, people wouldn't. Most people would not get that. They would not understand that you do things like that.
Absolutely, we had a music of Led Zeppelin this past January.
That's awesome.
Classic rock shows. And of course all this work in the schools, which we can talk about later on. So I think trying to expand the range of music that we're playing and the kind of experiences that we're offering to a community is important. By the way, so we also have a chamber series on Sundays, which is a free set of concerts that are during the day.
Well, that's your problem. You're doing shows for free. That's
those are grant supported.
Yeah, I got you.
But anyway, the point is that those are we find that a lot of families will come to those because they're shorter concerts. They're free. They're on a weekend afternoon, and so it's just an experience for them, that they can share as a family that they might not be able to do on a Saturday night at 7:30, for a couple hours. So to be more things to more people, I think that's part of what we need to do to create this value proposition for the community. I mean, the other part of it, I think, is to show the community a lot of what we do that kind of does fly under the radar. And I think one of the biggest parts of that is all the education work that we do. Not just these concerts that we do in January, where kids are bussed in from all over Caddo and Bossier to attend these concerts that are tailored just for them, but also we're sending out ensembles and individual musicians and myself into the schools throughout the school year to support the work that the music teachers and the classroom teachers are doing there, and to just kind of create this what we hope is an opportunity for kids to have an interaction with music. Because I think if I were to poll the audience at a typical concert, I think I would guess 80 to 90% of them at some point in their lives played a musical instrument or sang in a choir.
I played a trombone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Even if it was just for a year or two or three or whatever. Yeah. I think that experience, just changes your relationship with music for the rest of your life. And so that's what we hope will happen when they're in elementary school, let's say, and into middle school, that they have that we give them something of a spark of curiosity about what we do, enough that they might want to,
Yeah, so all these things that you're talking about in this business, we would call that promotion. That's what you're doing, right?
I suppose so. Yes, it's got a long arc of the return.
Yeah.
is a long way in the future, but I think it's incredibly important work to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think generally what I was going to say is that I think a lot of times that flies under the radar for most people. They're not aware so much of that work that we're doing, and so part of our value proposition. is that we need to, I guess, be better about explaining to people that's part of why we're here.
And where are you now? If people don't know where you're located.
Well, I mean, physically our offices are on Jordan Street, but our concerts for the most part are given at the Riverview Theater downtown on Clyde Fant, near the aquarium and Sydeport. We also have these Sunday afternoon concerts that I mentioned, which are mostly over at Centenary, Anderson Auditorium at Centenary, occasionally over at the auditorium on the LSUS campus. But we're also doing concerts in public libraries. We have a series with them. We also partner with SPAR to do some what we call Tiny Tots concerts, sometimes outdoors, parks. So we're a lot, and of course we're in the schools themselves.
Yeah. How do the kids like the music?
Well, I mean,
do they respond well?
Absolutely. I mean, the wonderful thing about kids is that they, they're open to anything pretty much. Yeah. They don't have a lot of judgments about what kind of music they, they think they like, or anything that's, especially if it's got a good kind of beat and rhythm to it. Yeah. They react to it. They move. Like that's sort of a natural thing that especially kids do, and we have sort of not bred, but we've trained ourselves as we get older to we have to sit here and complete motionlessness and somehow, but which I don't think is the way to enjoy music myself. No. But it's wonderful to see kids because they just respond to it so instinctively.
So how do when you give one of your main performances, do the adults just sit there like that, or do they? I mean, how do they act? I mean, that's a terrible way to ask that question.
Depends on the adult you're talking about, I suppose. And it also depends on, to some extent, the performance itself. Certainly our what we would call pops concerts, where there's somebody on stage who's sort of really interacting with the audience directly, kind of loosens people up and just makes them feel pretty free. A lot of times, though, I think that people are more in a, let's say, meditative state.
Yeah, that's me. Music. I mean, but they're not just sitting there like prim and proper and like afraid to move around.
Well, of course, I don't.
My
back is turned to them.
I'm asking the wrong guy, right? Should ask one of the violinists or something.
Right. No, I think that's not so much what we're seeing. I hope it's not anyway, because certainly through the comments that I make at the beginning of the concert, and so I'm trying to create a non-stuffy, a very just sort of welcoming environment. I want anybody, no matter their experience level with classical music, to feel, or orchestral music generally, to feel like this is a place for them, that they're going to have they're going to really feel like, I want them to feel a connection with the music, an emotional connection with the music that we're playing.
Sure. That's what brings them back.
Absolutely. Much more so than telling them this fact or that fact. It's about kind of opening the door to that emotional connection, and that's one way that music is really unique among the arts. I think it affects us on a subtextual level. We don't even know sometimes why we're affected by music, but it can make us feel happy, anxious, sad, joyful, everything in between.
It's the universal language, right?
It is absolutely that. No
that and math.
That's it. Yes. Hey, so what series do we have coming up this year, 2023?
Well, so we're speaking here in April. We're really winding up our season. Our season is kind of like the academic year season, so from September through May for the most part. We have just one more main series concert in early May, featuring Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, by the way, and work by Prokofiev, a big piano concerto. There's a piano competition in town that people may know of called the Weidman Piano Competition that's been going on for a number of years, and we often feature the winner of that playing with us as a soloist. So that's happening also in May, and then there's a chamber concert the next day, a free one at Centenary. So that's that, and then we're really announcing our 23/24 season very soon. And that, by the way, we haven't talked about it yet, that's the 75th anniversary season for this orchestra. So
nice.
75 years is it's quite a milestone in this business. We are the oldest continually operating symphony orchestra in the state of Louisiana. And I think for a community like this, to have an orchestra of that longevity and the artistic level at which we play right now, I think it's a real feather in the cap of this community.
So do the musicians in your orchestra, do they live here? Do they travel from around the country? How's that work?
Well, I would say that depending on the concert, we've got probably a third to a little more than a third to maybe 40% of the musicians will be right here from Shreveport and Bossier. We've got many who come in from Dallas-Fort Worth area, Houston, Natchitoches, Monroe,
all over.
Texarkana, also Little Rock. So yeah, just sort of a Baton Rouge, a regional arc of maybe 3.5 hours from around here. But a good percentage of them are based here all the time. And because of that, that means that those musicians, by the way, are contributing to the cultural vitality of our community beyond just the concerts that we're giving. A lot of them are teaching. They are in our churches. They are, sometimes music ministers or playing for services on the weekend, playing for theatrical productions. So it's just, having a resident orchestra like that, I think, has all sorts of other, it enriches the culture in ways that just beyond the actual concerts that we give.
Do you? They're all spread out, though, a lot of them, and so I'm wondering how. Obviously, they're of the highest quality musicians, but how do you get time to rehearse if they're from all over the country?
So this is a great question, and I think it may surprise people to know that we put these concerts together really very quickly.
Okay.
So we will typically have 3 or 4 rehearsals for let's say a classical program. Some of the non-classical programs, we just did a concert of music of Nat King Cole, celebrating his, just a little more than his 100th birthday, I guess.
All right.
But that was done on a single rehearsal, same day as the concert. So let's say that we have this concert coming up. I think there are 3.5 rehearsals for that, something like that. So they'll come in on Thursday, and by Saturday night we have this concert to present. So they get the music ahead of time. They practice the music on their own. The rehearsals that we do are really just about listening to each other, putting it together, and that can be done, pretty efficiently. Yeah. Again, to keep the costs down, all those kinds of things, which are important. But because these musicians are so strong, and they're playing every week, if they're not here, they're elsewhere playing in an orchestra. So they are really at the top of their games, and that allows us to put these things together pretty quickly. Yeah.
So if a person wanted to get into the symphony scene, like I think I want to try this out. So how would you dip your toe in? How much does a ticket cost? Where do we go to
start? Great question. Well, we have first of all, you can go to our website and kind of which is ShreveportSymphony.com, and just kind of have a look at all. It
is a really good website, by the way. You have tons and tons of information there.
I think it does
you even
well.
have Orchestra 101 or Symphony 101 to go in and.
Absolutely, a lot of those sort of FAQs kind of basically what should I wear? Where do I park? How do I, what can I clap whenever I want to? This sort of thing. Just trying to.
And what's the answer?
The answer is yes. Please clap all the time and raucously.
Okay, good.
But anyway, I think we have, there are tickets for discounted tickets for students, and many tickets that start at in the $20 range, so that people can just kind of check us out. I think if you've never been to a concert, an orchestra concert before, probably coming to something like our Holiday Pops concert, or let's say next season either the Elvis or the John Williams concert would be great. Maybe the John Williams concert, because that's a chance to hear a really lush, full orchestral sound, and something that you'll be familiar with if you've ever, of course, who hasn't seen any of these films for which his music has been featured.
I don't want to chase the rabbit too much, but John Williams, he's been in so many Oscar-winning films, he saved Jaws, he saved Star Wars, and then here he is, the oldest guy to ever get nominated for another Oscar just recently, So
he's 90 years old. I mean, it's just remarkable.
So I would love that concert.
And I think anyone would. I think that's I guess what I'm suggesting is that sort of concert is one that you will have a point of reference that that you will when we play the music from Raiders of the Lost Ark or Harry Potter or whatever, it's like, got that, know that, but I've never heard it live. I've never heard it with the the kind of vibrancy that an actual live acoustic sound
See, that music you're talking about, I would think that would program well anywhere around the country.
Yes.
But you did mention that there was a difference in the way you would put together a show for here versus some of the other places that you conduct.
Right. So that's a perfect example of something that will work anywhere. Yeah. The John Williams concert. But a lot of times you want to feature let's say a performer or a theme, I guess, a concept that might be somehow specific to that that part of the country. In Boulder, I'm thinking a lot about it's a community that loves being outside and taking hikes.
Right.
We talk about the natural world and so on. Here we kind of focused a little bit on our connection to New Orleans and jazz and that kind of and as well as, by the way, celebrating the rather vibrant sort of film community that we now have
which
here.
is going to start jumping back up too with 50 Cent coming back into town here. So.
Right, absolutely. So
there might be some work there for you guys to collaborate. That might be kind of cool.
That'd be good.
We're up for anything. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just curious. I mean, what is the response like? Somebody from Shreveport-Bossier that's never been to one of your performances before, and he sits through it, and I'm just curious, like what first-time response is like.
Yeah, well, we try to when people are buying, of course they can subscribe, which means they've come to multiple concerts. But a lot of times, a lot of times when there's a single ticket buyer, we don't have a record of that person in our database. We try to follow up with them after the concert and basically, send them a little survey. How did this, what'd you think? How did this part of it work? How did that part of it work? We want to, make sure that the experience we're providing is as welcoming as possible, and so on and so forth. I think what we find for the most part is that people kind of find themselves saying, "I never knew this was here," and a friend of mine invited me.
Yeah.
It's almost always that sort of thing. Somebody that they knew invited them to join them, and they were like, "Wow, this is great! I want to, I want to be back." So that's all we can ask, right? We hope that we have a product that try it, you'll like it, basically.
I'm curious. Do some people have this preconceived notion that this is just stuffy and boring and dull, and then they see one of the performances and they're like, "Wow, this is really neat."
I think that's a very common reaction. I think it's hard not to, if you haven't been to a classical concert, it's hard not to kind of have that preconception that, it's going to be people, kind of looking, looking down
look at us.
Right. That's not the vibe there at all, and it's certainly not the vibe that they're getting from the stage.
Good.
And from me, I hope. So that's, I think, one of the first things that they are surprised by, that they. That it wasn't intimidating, and that they felt at ease, A, and B, that they actually found this music engaging, and they found themselves having a very different kind of experience than really anything else in their lives. So as I said, I think it serves a valuable kind of role for our culture right now.
Good deal. We got about 3 minutes left.
Well, like I say, you say you're the we called you the maestro to begin with because Ed says, well, the maestro will be there. I'm like, the maestro?
So that's stuffy.
That's
now,
pretty
right?
cool.
That is very stuffy. That's why I don't care for
That's
it.
right.
And he referenced the when you did the Rockets Over the Red, when you played that.
Oh yeah.
That great.
That's always good stuff.
So right, in particular, I think he may be referring to what we did in the summer of 2020, which of course was the pandemic summer, the sort of the heart of it, right? And we wanted to partner with KTBS to provide sort of a patriotic musical experience for people, and that was really exciting. We put together, I don't know, 7 or 8. There were Sousa marches. They were, I can't remember everything right now, but all just sort of Americana, great orchestral stuff, and we had to do it, in our own homes. So it was quite a technological.
I remember that was spectacular, by the way.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. It was quite an undertaking, and on many people's parts, the audio engineers as well as the video folks who were editing all these 60 or so different individual instrumental tracks, putting them all, compiling them all together, making sure they all were at the same tempo and all this sort of thing, and then editing into that these wonderful shots that we had of the drone footage over Cross Lake or whatever it would happen to be. That was really and then we did something not exactly like that, but a little bit similar for our holiday program that season. It was televised again on KTBS. So it was. I'm
noticing a connection here.
Well, we appreciate the partnership because it's it's a way to to connect with a bigger part of the community than would normally come to see us, at any given concert.
All right, we're down to our final 30 seconds. Final
people
question.
have such an attachment emotionally to music, whether it's patriotic, whether it's emotional through film, whether it's bringing people together. And you guys bring that to the community. You guys, I'm going to get in trouble for saying you, sir. But I just appreciate what you do. Thanks for coming and kind of illuminating all this stuff to us today and teaching me and Jeff a few things.
Listen, I appreciate the chance to share this, and we're so proud of the work we're doing and so proud of our community.
All right, Maestro Michael Butterman, although he doesn't like the term maestro. We'll just call him Director.
Michael will work.
Michael will work. Okay, I like that. You can call me Mr. Bine4.
All right, fair enough.
For Paul and Michael, I'm Jeff. Thanks for being here on this latest edition of Good to Know Shreveport-Bossier. Have a good one, everybody.